Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope that everybody's doing really well. I am back with another favorites video. So a lot of you seem to enjoy my last April favorites video, so I've decided to make it a monthly installment on the channel where at the end of the month I cover around 5 species. We're going to try and keep it to 5 because it could go over that. 5 species that I've been loving that month for whatever reason. Maybe they're growing really well, maybe they're just getting my attention a lot more, who knows, but we're going to try and cover them every single month. This could be a good way to just share plants that I'm loving, which is the easiest thing to talk about also, and also just show you what's in my collection, how I'm growing them, and I guess it's kind of an update on how things are doing. So the first one today is a Hoya. It is a Hoya, and I know I did a Hoya collection tour quite recently, but you know what? I have Hoyas in my collection and I've been loving them. So this one I'm going to pick up now is my Hoya cordata Sumatra. So this is a small plant, really. It is a beautiful plant, but the reason I've been loving it is because it has kind of bursted out in growth recently, and my Hoyas tend to do this. Some of them take a long time to adjust to the environment and they're kind of slow and they kind of don't grow. They stay a little bit dormant until they're like, yeah, I'm comfortable now, I feel safe and I can grow, which is really cute. And so this plant is, you can see this lovely typical Hoya vine, and the leaves are getting bigger. They are beautiful. They have the most wonderful kind of splash grey variegation. The original leaves are quite hardy and the newer leaves are a little bit softer, but they're fairly thick, I would say, and they're getting bigger as well. And they are also furry. I don't know if that's going to transfer or if I can show that well on camera. I will try and take some B-roll for you as well. But the leaves are also very furry on the top and the back, and they're just absolutely beautiful. So this is kind of growing for me. It's been in this pot since I got it. I don't know when I got this plant. It's definitely over a year, maybe a year and a half ago. I've had it a while now. It's been pretty easy to care for, to be honest. I've never had an issue with this, never any root rot, never any pests. It's going really well for me. I just think it's beautiful and I'm so excited for this to get bigger. If it ever flowers for me, I might actually die inside. I'm going to put a picture of what the flowers look like. They are really fluffy and beautiful, kind of like hairy like the leaves, but I haven't ever had a Hoya flower for me that has been really fluffy. I also don't have a lot of those, but you know, those kind of hairy, beautiful flowers. And if this flowers for me, like I said, it's going to be a big deal. So hopefully this continues to grow and get bigger, and one day we might get a flower. Actually, yeah, the stem as well, I'm only now noticing, is also hairy. No, that won't show on camera, but it is also quite hairy, and I wonder why that is. It's probably due to it being in quite a humid environment, I would say, which makes sense because the Hoya cordata Sumatra, as the name may suggest, is native to Sumatra, southern Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, and something else, Borneo. That makes me think about the environment that it naturally grows in, but it's a really beautiful species. Some of the leaves are a little bit more kind of green than others. If you compare them to like this leaf, that's a lot harder with the splash variegation. But you know, as with all Hoyas, you kind of get varied leaf situations going on. But yeah, a tiny little square pot, no need to repot. As I covered in my Hoya collection tour, I tend to not repot my Hoyas until absolutely necessary. And I believe that they like being in more confined situations for longer. They seem to thrive in that environment. So also a little bit of stress might encourage a flower as well. So we don't want them too happy around here because, you know, they need to be pushed a little bit. So that is my Hoya cordata Sumatra, and next we have an oldie but a goodie, very common plant, but my Stromanthe sanguinea, sanguinea. I don't know, put it on the screen. Or Stromanthe trio star, as a lot of people know it as. So here she is. She is looking cute, might I say. Look at that color. Wow, 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 wow. So in the Marantaceae family, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this plant. I mean, everybody kind of, when you first get into houseplants, it's like the most, it's so eye-catching. Everybody wants to grow it. It's just beautiful. If you're not used to growing Marantacea, you could run into issues with this, with browning leaves and things like that. But honestly, I got this as a like 2 or 3 leaf tiny potted plant a couple of years ago, and it's grown to be quite big. I'm also getting some really pink new leaves, which are just gorgeous. Again, this is in the prayer plant family, so the plants move, or the leaves move a lot based on light levels. They'll close up at night and open again, and it's really beautiful. I just, guys, can we look at that color again? Hello, beauty. It is so pretty. I love it, and like the variegation is just absolutely gorgeous. This plant, like maybe at the beginning I found a little bit difficult balancing the water levels that it needs, but I think in general it's very easy to care for. I haven't really had any issues. Maybe I had some issues at the very beginning when I was trying to figure it out, but honestly it does pretty well in a lot of kind of common house environments with indirect light. It doesn't need super high light levels. Obviously the higher light levels you give it might encourage more variegation and more kind of pronounced colors. You can tell this is the part that's on the wall because the leaves are facing towards the light. But this plant is native to Brazil and I think the Amazon rainforest. So it likes, you know, rainforest, wet, humid vibes, as a lot of our plants do. So it's just so beautiful. And I love this little white pot it's in. So been loving her recently. Could definitely be divided if you wanted to. You see these kind of, it's kind of a lot of plants together, but it also multiplies as it gets older, so you can divide them if you want, but I love the big and bushy look. So the next plant I am definitely not going to pick up because it is just way too big. I covered this in my in a video a while ago, being like, some of my plants are getting too big, and like this is one of my biggest plants. I repotted it into a giant pot a couple of months ago, like quite recently, and it's really seemed to be happy with that. So the plant that I'm talking about is my Epipremnum aureum marble queen. It is growing so big right now. Gonna include all B-roll footage to show you this, but it just looks so beautiful. And I'm so happy with this plant. It's one of the oldest plants that I have. I got it as like a 3 or 4 leaf small little nursery pot plant. The leaves on this are getting so big. So the cork board that I've left up, it is now growing on. The roots, as you can see, are really digging in there now. It's stuck on. The leaves are getting bigger as a result, and they're just huge. Like they're almost the size of my hand, and they're going to continue to get bigger. So I'm really excited about the future of this plant. I just want to let it go wild. I want it to grow on the ceiling, everywhere. It's just so absolutely gorgeous and seems really happy with care at the moment. So it's exciting times for this oldie girl. I'm looking forward to seeing how big it gets. I mean, this plant does fenestrate when it gets mature, so that is obviously always the hope. I'm looking at every leaf being like, are you fenestrated? I'm sure it will happen soon because we're getting to the big leaf stages. But yeah, so total favorite of mine. I feel like I'm checking on it every day. It's also in a great position as I walk in to see how it's doing. This plant is native to kind of the French Polynesia region, but it is also an invasive plant in so many different areas in Asia and the West Indies, because it's such a prolific grower. And it's, you know, that also tells a lot about a houseplant. It's a very easy houseplant to grow Because of the marble queen, you have higher variegation. You'd want to be giving it a good bit more light, which is something I kind of learned the hard way. For a long time, this plant didn't grow for me. But because it's so easy, that's why it's an invasive in so many different areas. It can grow in a lot of different habitat types. So it can be a problem. It's a beauty indoors. So another plant that I will not be picking up, but is right beside it, is my lovely Philodendron varicosum, the velvet-leaved, heart-shaped philodendron that we all love. I've had this plant for a long time. However, I have chopped it back to the soil, I think on 2 occasions now. So I've had it a long time, but it kind of restarts growing. If some of you have watched me for a while, you might have seen it growing on a branch I had it on last year. And now it's getting big again, but it's growing upright and it's in a much more structurally sound situation. So before it was it was getting out of control, and I didn't kind of give it the structural support it needed. So I'm really happy with how this is growing. I have a couple of cuttings in at the bottom as well. It hasn't attached onto the cork board yet, but I always find with varicosum it can take a little bit more time if your humidity levels are a bit low. But we'll continue to update on this plant. It is so beautiful. Native to Central and South America, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, rainforest, humid, warm, beautiful landscapes, but a real stunner, a real classic stunner as well. The red back of the leaves and hairy petioles, just gorgeous. Still one of my all-time favorites. So the next plant might surprise you, because I don't know if I've even ever showed this on my channel, maybe once before. But a big reason for that is because it was dying for an incredibly long time. So in my last favorites, I showed you my strobilanthes, my purple shield, under my spider farmer grow light, and how that had a huge effect on the healthiness of the plant and the coloration, that I wasn't really aware it needed so much light. This is the strawberry geranium, as a lot of people know it, or the Saxifraga stolonifera. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the strawberry begonia, as a lot of people call it as well, even though it's not a begonia. So let's show you what this looks like. There was another part of it here that died because I wasn't giving it enough light, and it needed way more light than I thought it had. It also got root rot because of that, but it's a really cool looking plant. And if you don't know, the stolonifera put out these kind of stringy bits with a pup on the end that you can cut off and reroot. It's a really beautiful and interesting growth habit. Oh my god, is this flowering? Oh, it's actually starting to put out one of those that I was just explaining. So it has really cool variegation that turns pink in higher light levels. It has that interesting growth habit, and the leaves are very furry. They're very kind of a little bit hardy, I would say. It has a very dense growth habit. I found the care of this a little bit tricky to figure out, obviously with the light levels, but also I did find that I was getting a little bit of mold on the leaves, that could have been just, you know, a me issue for a little bit of a while, but I think I've figured out the care now, and it's growing pretty well, hence why it's in my favorites video. This plant is native to China, Taiwan, South Japan, and South Korea, I believe. So I find plants that come from that area of the world, China, are a bit more difficult to grow indoors. I'm not really sure why. Maybe because the humidity isn't high enough, or the heat levels at certain times of the year. I'm not really sure what that is, but I always find them a little bit more difficult than the species that are kind of from the South America regions. But I'm figuring it out, and I'm really happy with this one. Hopefully it will grow bigger. I think that it will, and it will have some of those lovely pups. And yeah, so that is it. So those were my favorites for the month of May. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you have some of these species. How are you finding growing them? Are you running into the same issues that maybe I had, or maybe you've some tips to give me? Let me know in the comments below. Please interact with this video in whatever way that you would like to, whether that's a like, comment, or subscribe for more content. If you do subscribe, also hit the bell icon so you're notified every Sunday when I upload. Enjoy growing your plants, and I will see you in the next video next week. Bye!